Presentation of Group 4. So, what are the themes of the mini literature review? The main theme is the effectiveness of reading intervention among secondary students that are struggling with reading literacy and their coping mechanism to the said program. Well, the literature review identifies three central themes regarding secondary students with reading difficulties. First is it explores the psychological of self-worth, explaining that students often choose to disengage or act out as a way to protect their dignity and hide their struggles from peers. Second, it highlights that withdrawal is a multifaceted. It isn't just about laziness, but can stem from a mix of cognitive overload, a learned expectation of failure, or a defensive need to safeguard one's reputation. Finally, the review focuses on the impact of intervention structures, warning that the very programs meant to help can sometimes backfire. If a program feels stigmatizing or strip away a student's autonomy, they may prioritize self protection over the actual academic growth. Essentially, the research shows that we cannot fix literacy skills without first addressing the students' psychological and social needs.
Nice, I understand it now.
So, the similarities and differences. In examining the research on secondary literacy, we see a clear similarity in how students react to reading difficulties. They often use this engagement as a deliberate shield to protect their self worth and dignity. While the behavior, withdrawal, is the same, the differences lie in underlying why. For some, it is a psychological response to repeated failure known as learned helplessness. For others, it is a cognitive issue where the complexity of the text simply overloads their working memory. Furthermore, while school interventions are designed to help, theories like labeling theory and self determination theory warn that these programs can unintentionally backfire. If an intervention is perceived as a public label of deficiency, or if it strips away a student's autonomy, the student may prioritize self protection over academic growth. Ultimately, the literature suggests that for an intervention to be truly effective, it must move beyond just teaching skills and start addressing the complex psychological and social identities of the students themselves.
Nice. Now I know the similarities and differences of the authors in this study.
So, the research gap that could lead to other research titles. One significant gap that we have identified is the willingness of students to participate in interviews. Well, because who would be willingly to agree to say that they cannot read, right? I mean, I would not do that to myself either. So the research gap, um, while we have a strong theoretical understanding of why students struggle, ranging from cognitive overload to the protection of self-worth, there is a significant gap in the literature regarding the actual student voice. Most current studies are theoretical or quantitative, meaning they look at the problem from the outside in. We lack deep qualitative accounts of how students themselves interpret their time in these intervention programs. This is largely because students themselves are often reluctant to discuss painful feelings of shame or inadequacy, which makes data collections incredibly difficult. Therefore, the next step for research isn't just to measure literacy scores, but to prioritize student narratives. We need to investigate how we can design interventions that not only build skills but also preserve the dignity of the learner by integrating cognitive, motivational, and sociological perspectives into a more humane approach. So, the possible titles we have formulated are this on the right side of the presentation.
Can you explain these titles?
So the
This
possible ideas are, why are students scared of opening up? Well, like I said, the students are scared of opening up because they are afraid to be stigmatized from being unable to read. And the coping mechanisms of the students with poor reading literacy is to protect themselves by avoiding such interventions. Reasons why pride and ego is more important than improving skills among students is because of peer pressure. They are scared that their peers will judge them for their illiteracy.
what a nice presentation. 10-10.
Yes. Thank you for this wonderful presentation.
Yes.